As much as we only have the now, I think when you're working with a framework for the unknown, the future, it's a little bit of a strange one. You have to kind of consider that you don't know what's going to happen in the future. You don't know who you're going to be. And I think that embodying one's future self can actually be very, very beneficial for exploring that element a little bit, knowing that the path itself may change, knowing that you're not necessarily going to be that person. So I guess let's start with a bit of a framework. Let's start with a bit of a guide. So I'll give you some context, why I'm maybe thinking in the future rather than the now. I am a person who got really, 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 really sick, and I'm not going to get too into the finer details of it. But basically, in 2023, I almost went beyond, if you will. And I had to really sit down and reassess my life priorities. I had to get really delusional. I had to get really hopeful. I had to really, really work through a lot of wounds, a lot of false patterns and problematic behavior, because I thought about what kind of mom would I like to be? What kind of influence would I have for future children? Because at that point, I was not living for myself. I pursued a surrogacy that, long and short, fell through. I really strapped down on reading and questioning the meaning of existence and reading psychology. And so the slower path is the way that I had to go with that after. I've never had the desire to be a biological parent myself, having a multitude of health issues and other factors that I don't think that would be something I would even want to dabble with. I would love to be a mom, but I knew that where I was at the time in 2023, I couldn't be a mom. I was a grown-up or I guess I was a child in a grown-up's body, and then I don't really think that adults truly exist. I don't think we ever become whole. I don't think we ever really truly reach that final destination. We reach a finality of the self, because I think that our self is always changing. I think that our self is very fluid, and I think that as much as, again, we only have the now, I think it's not whatsoever the now that got me through one of the hardest times of my life back then. It was a little bit of past, it was a little bit of future hope, and a lot of CPTSD, funny enough. I remember having a flashback of my grandfather dying to pancreatic cancer. I remember the moment where he gave up and he was no longer eating food, and because of that, there was a moment where my body tried to give up, and I too was having to force feed myself, and I didn't want to go out. I said, I still have so much life to give. Not for myself, not for this version of myself, but I want to embody somebody who would be a good mom, would go out of their way to have their child feel heard and have their child be the healthiest, thriving version of themselves. So I suppose my questions within the framework would be something, I'll keep it vague. I think that mom is a concept that is different to everyone, and I think that there are many ways to be a parent. So here are some questions for your future self, your present self. Incorporate, infer it however you so choose to desire. Perception is a funny one. So, what would your future self be doing? Would they be down a set career path? Would they maybe be a parent themselves? Would they be a little bit more optimistic, a little bit more loving and tender? Would they admit to their wrongdoings? Would they try to work through conflict rather than avoid it, knowing that conflict is something that is like anything in this lifetime and it's inevitable? Would they be more physically active? Would they make an effort to show the ones that they love know that they are loved? Would they be a little bit more open-minded? Would they be aiming to be less judgmental, aiming to be less of a people pleaser, less fixing and less shaming and less negative bias and all of these pre-existing programs that we tend to come with? And I'm not going to get into some of those more harmful biases that may have come from your own past. Again, I don't know you. But I do know a few things, and I know that none of us really know what we're doing here. We know certain skills, maybe. We acquire certain passions throughout the years, and even then, I think if you were to enhance your skills within one framework, maybe not be a Renaissance human yourself, but to go down one path, can you truly know everything there is to know about one subject, one career, one role in society? Or are there loopholes? Are there maybe dealing with some of those different perceptions from different humans, dealing with different biases, dealing with somebody who isn't necessarily listening to the topic at hand? So what would your future self talk like? What would your future self walk like? What would they be doing with their time? Would they be reading more? Would they be off being a psychotherapist, a nurse, something more supportive for the greater good? What does greater good itself mean if good and evil are simply concepts on their own? What does good look like to you? Would you want to be a good person? Would you want to do better? Would you want to aim to think things through rather than be very reactionary in such a fast-paced world where dopamine hits tend to drive us, and ego is a concept many know not of. It is okay to have ego moments. That's part of the human experience, I hear. However, would it be not beneficial to learn what an ego is and learn how to separate it, or not necessarily separate it, but what is a more soulful approach to benefiting society? What is a way that you're able to give back? What is a way that you feel maybe there's an area you're not excelling in. Maybe there's an area where you need to work on it. Maybe you need to work on your speech. Maybe you need to work on making better eye contact. Maybe you need to work on actively making the effort. Maybe you haven't been making the effort up until this point, and maybe you know it. Maybe you've just been spiraling in a selfish, greedful manner, and maybe you're registering that something is not okay with that, and something is kind of, excuse the language, fucked up with that. And rather than keep doing what you're doing right now because you're realizing this isn't working for you anymore, this is burning you out, you're hitting a workaholism wall of dissatisfaction, and whatever you're doing right now, you know it's just not working. So what would work? What would be the way that you need to embrace change that's a little bit more fluid, that can benefit you in a way that is maybe a little bit humbling rather than greedful, rather than taking? What is a way that you can give back and can learn to benefit others, to see yourself in people who maybe have nothing to do with you? Because isn't that kind of the purpose of this little life a little bit? Maybe it's not having one set path or something, but maybe it's to see ourselves in others, see ourselves in everything. And it's possibly going to sound a little bit woo-woo-y, but maybe it's to see ourselves in nature, and to see ourselves in those difficult moments, you know, the moments where the human element starts to perk up and emotions are running high, and you say that silly goose thing that you know was not very tasteful. It's gonna happen. You're a human. As much as you may interpret this experience as a soul's experience, emotions exist. Is that not one of the things that has possibly been ruling your life? What is that emotion that you yourself are feeling very held back from? What is a way that you could be allowing yourself to feel that emotion in a much more healthy, calmer way? Because you're going to feel the emotions regardless, but what is an outlet that could really enhance your creativity and benefit the greater good potentially? What is something that you would like to see yourself doing in 5 years, in 10 years, 15 even? Will you be here in 15 years? What are the steps you can be taking to make sure that you are here in 15 years? Knock on wood. What are some of the ways that you can be a little bit more in touch with the flow, be in touch with whoever that true self version of you is when you're older. Because I don't think that we can necessarily know the path. The path can change, life finds a way, and who knows, maybe that's part of the excitement of it, that we don't know where we're going, we don't know who our future self is gonna be, but maybe it's okay to sometimes dream about that, to think about the infinite potential that one can have, that one can embody within themselves, and hopefully give back to others some of that energy themselves. And maybe I need to say it in a way that is a little less out there. For if one hasn't looked in, it's going to sound very out there. So, what would your future self be like? Where would they be? Where would they live? Retired? Are you still working? Are you maybe doing something a little bit more leisureful with your life? Are you creating more? Are you expanding within your skill sets, or are you going down that singular path that hasn't steered you wrong just yet? So what is that thing that you've gotten really good at, maybe because you've put a lot of energy into it? What is that passion that ignites a fire in your soul and that just makes you feel so clear, so here, now, present? I see the joke. What is that thing that makes you feel you? What is that thing that really just grounds you, really just makes you think about how big this little existence truly is? Would you be traveling? Would you be learning? Teaching? Would you be what would you be doing? Would you be a little bit more caring, more conscientious, more warm, if possible? Would you aim to let go of those petty squabbles? Would you aim to acknowledge when your behavior is harming others? Would you aim to do better? What does better even mean? What does better look like? What is the concept of better? If the only thing that we know to be true, theoretically, let's say, is change, then what would the definition of better be? Would that be, I don't know, I'm not you. So I'm going to leave you with some thoughts here. I'm going to leave you with some ideas, some things that I like to do when I feel like I'm slipping from reality a little bit, and do what works for you, grain of salt. These can maybe help you embody your future self a little bit, or maybe you can use them to go on your villain arc. Maybe you gotta just do some unhinged things, and gosh, I hope you reprimand if that is what you choose to utilize this video for. So, potentially is journaling something that could help? Is meditation something that could help? I know that one's a strange one if you haven't done it before. Could maybe talking to a friend help? Could going outside help? Maybe you just need a fresh breath of whatever kind of sunshiny air it is in your area. Pardon. I know that's what I'm gonna do after this. Would you benefit from supplements? Would you benefit from more sleep? Would you benefit from just doing a little bit of extra self-care? Would you benefit from therapy? Would you benefit from CBT, DBT, somatic work? Or maybe you just need to find a healthier way to say, you know what, fuck it, I'm not okay today. And that is okay. I can't be happy all the time. That's ridiculous. Why would I expect that of myself? Maybe I just need to remove myself from social media, remove myself from the things that do not serve to my greater purpose anymore, and to learn to take things less personally. Because at the end of the day, we can only please and we can only control the I, the you, the self, and rather than chase the things that do no longer serve us, we can aim to repair the conflicts, and if both parties do not want to attend, it's simply not your party. So, choose love, choose kindness. Those are just some of my lingering thoughts for the future self. I don't know what my future self is going to have. I have a multitude of ideas myself that I'll keep to myself, but I want to know what you see yourself doing in the future. Please let me know down below, and then maybe let me know some of the ways that you try to embody that future self in the now. Maybe with visualization exercises, creation, graphic design. Let me know. But choose love, choose kindness, aim to do better, and as much as these silly goose words mean nothing, I do think it is very important to tell you that I love you. It is okay if you're not doing okay. It is okay to goose up. Just try not to skid so hard, my love. You've got this. Your future self's got this. And your younger self would be proud.